We have covered lot of basics and theory stuffs, and even I have shown you how you can perform a retro hunt. But can you leverage attack monitor framework techniques and tactics and identify and process your hunt in a practical way? If not, do not worry. Today's episode is all about practical, where we are going to leverage attack monitor and kill chain, and practically I will show you how you can map all of the kill chain phases and do your hunt for a post compromise scenario. So without a further ado, let's get started. Before we start the actual show, I will encourage you to hit the bell icon and subscribe to the Black Pearl channel, and put all of your comments, queries in the comment section so that I can get little help from the YouTube algorithm, and it can help to increase my audience. Okay guys, so what is exactly the scenario that we are talking about today? So we will assume that there is already a compromise. So just bear in mind, this is a demo scenario, but this same situation can arrive in your organization as well, right? So you have to be prepared for the hunting strategies, what exactly you need to do even after doing the incident response. Okay, so now what would the attacker do? How you will identify that? Simple, using attack tactics, right? So that's the thing that talks about what the attacker will do. So next, what we will understand, like how would they do? So that is basically nothing but the techniques. Okay, so those are the things basically that those are getting covered, what exactly the attacker motives are and how they are gonna pull that over, right? So now our scenario is very simple. Again, it's a demo one. So malicious document in the email, right? So in your SOC, phishing emails, phishing emails, the spear phishing, all of those stuffs are very common, right? Now if there is any malicious document, let's say the macro was run, you know that, right? So that's an incident that is going on. Now what next? So how basically you would identify what are the next steps, what are the scenarios that we are going to cover, and all those stuffs, right? So what is the basic understanding? So this the below framework that you are seeing in front of my screen. So basically this is the modified version of kill chain according to the attack tactics metric. Okay, so we are trying to establish each and every fact, like from persistence to the very end of it, like command and control, and each and every step we are trying to identify through our investigation. Okay, and before even we do that, like what are the things in terms of, right, what are the logs that you required for doing this kind of hunt? So first thing, we will talk about the network services logs. Okay, so in terms of like establishing a fact, like where the attacker is moving to your network, how the attacker has went into your network, all those stuffs are very important to cover, and you should be capturing your DNS logs into that, right? So there are different other artifacts, like a process by which you can capture DNS log. One thing is very important, like Windows DNS log or analytical login. Now if you are running an Windows server, you have to capture those things from your Windows machines. Okay, and network extraction is also a process by which you can elaborate and you can leverage your DNS logs that is sitting onto your disk. Okay, next thing is very important that we talk about the HTTP traffic, guys. Okay, so HTTP traffic comes from like different sources. It could be your proxy, it could be again like port mirroring, it could be network extraction, doesn't matter, but you have to capture your HTTP traffic so that you know what is the communication going like north, south, east to west from your network and your organization. Okay, third thing important, SSL certificate. Why this is important? Because most of the time if you are capturing something like a port 443 traffic, which is by default like encrypted, you cannot identify what the hell is going on inside that, and even you cannot open that packet in Wireshark because that's encrypted, right? So if you have the SSL certificate information for those traffic that is going on, you will understand more better, you will have the depth understanding rather just going for the net flow log. So that comes to the next section, like you should have your SMTP and net flow. SMTP is very important to identify your like outbound email communication. So attacker might be leveraging your outbound email communication for doing the C2 or even exfiltration, right? So that's important to have your SMTP logs captured at point to point time. Okay, so netflow log, you all know by means, so it is basically the firewall logs, but not in a deep packet inspection, because in deep packet inspection it takes a lot of memory, guys, right? So in terms of our netflow logs, we really have to capture very minimal information in terms of like what is the source IP, what is the destination IP, source port, destination port, what is the TCP flag, what is the type of traffic, whether it is accepted, it is denied, in this all these phases. Okay, and the last one is the host and network, firewall and IDS logs, because if you are doing something on like intrusion level analysis, those things are very important. Okay, and the last thing before I jump into the actual stuff where we'll open the Kibana and we will show and we will go to the deep dive of understanding how this happened, Windows host logs. Without this, if you have also the network log, you cannot go to the deep dive and understanding what the hell is going on, right? So security system application, very important. Now most of the organization doesn't capture so much of log, but yeah, I feel pity for them. But in mature SOC, where you have a proper process, proper orientation. Now by the way, if you are not part of that SOC and you are in a threat hunter, so prepare a plan, right? So that you can tell your boss that, hey, I need this kind of logs, that the logs I am not having, right? So in that process, you will be preparing your SOPs. You will be one step ahead of doing maturity model, THMM, right? Go to my section 1, 2, so of threat hunting, where I have discussed all those stuffs, right? Next, Sysmon or EDR. Now if you have EDR solution, awesome. If you do not, I'd prefer that configure Sysmon and apply some filters based on that. What are the basic things that is required for capturing any kind of incidents is very important. Okay, and now I have seen lot of organization doesn't capture like these PowerShell logs and auto run items, but believe me guys, these are the very important things that organization should be capturing, right? Because if you are not capturing, you are on a blind spot, right? Because there are a lot of attack metrics as possible just with this PowerShell and auto run items, right? So yeah, and last thing, obviously the files and registry, because those are important when you just want to point the dots and extract those things out of your analysis. You have to make a full depth analysis, right? So that's the thing when this object auditing and file registry come into the picture. Now let's jump into the demo. Okay, so guys, I have my Elastic SIEM up and running, and I have all of those logs that is going through my SIEM. So you can see like Sysmon logs, security events, DNS logs, all of those stuffs what I need for this particular hunting. Okay, so the first thing, as I have just shown, so we will first go to identify the persistence mechanism. Okay, so now persistence mechanism can come by different process. If you go to the att&ck framework, there are process, and if you have seen my previous video where exactly I have told you like the uses of lol beans, right? So now I would concentrate on like a run32 DLL, then PowerShell, then like a process of credential harvesting and all those stuffs. But first let's try from run32 DLL, because how I am identifying that, it is just the process that you go to the att&ck framework, you capture what are the process for identifying persistence and what is the process by which the attacker can easily say that, okay, I won't be able to so a defense process, I can easily bypass the defense process, right? So it is the whitelisting process. So run32 DLL comes in lol bean, so obviously it is like that. Okay, so now our this particular scenario has happened on back way in January. So I am just putting out the filter from January till now so that I can load up all of my Sysmon logs that I am having. And if you see, I have only one hit because that's the portion of my logs that I have ingested. Okay, so in right strategy, so what I am gonna do, I am gonna simply run up run32.dll so that I can just identify if I can identify something bad is going on. Okay, so just by using run32.dll, so you see there are things that is going on for run32.dll. and now if you see that run32.dll is a parent image over here, and what the hell is this process is doing? This is loading a command line and it is loading a PowerShell. Okay, so that is already suspicious for me, because why the hell run32.dll need PowerShell? Maybe there is a business reason, but that's okay, right? So there could be process which you should identify as a legit process, but not all, right? So if you keep on scrolling, and there are only 11 hits, so depending on how big is your data, so you have to go through deep dive on step-by-step basis and breaking the chunk data timeline wise manner. Okay, so now if I go to the next one, so if you see this particular thing, it is already catching my eyes, guys. So you see again run32.dll, and what the hell is this process is doing? This is loading a metasploit.dll. okay, and the image is obviously same run32.dll. So phenomenal, guys. So now what the hell I want, so maybe I have got one of my idea to look for this metasploit.dll, right? So what I can do, I can simply go to this particular section, and if you just point out this time frame, it has loaded on 26 January 1532. okay, so this process ran to go and grab run32.dll. so if I go to check up like the next process, okay, so just make a note of it. So while you are analyzing, so run32.dll was run to identify metasploit. okay, and this is sysmon log. This is the machine name you are identifying. You can go to the machine name to identify and quarantine this particular machine, and you can do the host forensics on well as well, right? But we are doing on threat hunting mode as of now. okay, so the next process, one thing we have done, we have identified using run32.dll, but also I am interested to see if there is any PowerShell just by looking at it, if there is anything bad or not, right? So if I just simply load the PowerShell up, you see over here there is a Windows again command.exe. you wouldn't see like in simple command.exe if you not capturing this full command line information. Like this particular thing is very important, guys. So you see there is a PowerShell being run through command line.exe, and there is a new object process creation, and this is downloading us straight to invoke mimikatz and dumping credential, right? So this is the process that execution we have already went into. So from persistence mechanism, we have seen the run32.dll was calling metasploit, and when we have identified there could be another thing to go for execution step, like run32.dll PowerShell, as I am telling you. Just by looking at the PowerShell log, I can understand there is a mimikat credential dumping was done. okay, so if you see the timestamp, it was 10 minutes after. So we have seen it was the previous one was 1632, right, if I am not wrong. So let me check that once again. Run32.dll. yes, so correct. So if so that the next thing was ran in 42, so 10 minutes gap, so quite possible, right? But we are also interested to see like whatever has happened in this 10 minutes of interval. So if we check like PowerShell, and if we just specify PowerShell.exe, so that I can understand like what are the things that is going on over here, right? So you see that, okay, so there is a process. So by the way, this is the same machine name, okay, that we are working on, right? So you see there are PowerShell.exe. this is simple PowerShell. This is nothing suspicious over here. If you scroll down over here, now these things are interesting, guys. So you see over here, if I go to command line again, PowerShell is loading a command line process. It is going to system32 and net.exe. that means your PowerShell is going to internet, and it is talking to some maybe C2 domain or malicious IP address. We don't know at this point of time, right? So now if I, okay, so let me open. So by the way, this time frame is in the between when you have seen the first thing as like metasploit and credential harvesting as mimikatz, right? So now if I go to this full message field over here, let me open the sucker up, and if you see, yes, so you see there is a destination IP address, guys, right? So let me quickly check on this particular destination IP address whether you will have anything like hit or not. Maybe you can just simple do a virus total search, virus total scan, just to identify whether this is have any hint or not, right? Okay guys, so you see these are Malicious by Fortinet and Komodo. So that means you have already some hint, and this is again from Russia, so you would have definitely another IOC at your hand, right? So by doing the hunting on the procedural aspect of AttackMiter, what we have done, we have first identified the persistence using run32.dll. we went ahead to identify the persistence using PowerShell, but in that process we have identified the execution, okay, where the PowerShell was talking to the internet. It is trying to go to a malicious C2 IP address. We have also seen it was just talking and dumping a Metasploit, right? So what next, right? So we have identified persistence, execution. Now if you want to go for lateral movement, okay, so now once you have into your network, now think through the process, okay, how the attacker can do the lateral movement. Okay, they can try to brute force from one machine to another machine, or even they can try to bypass your defense process and directly jump into your network, right? So for doing that, what we need, again Windows system logs, and we have Windows system logs over here, right? So now the interesting stuff, guys, what we can do over here, so you see Windows security event log over here. So what I have built some visualization library, so that is a timeline, obviously. So now if I go to over here this particular area, and if I put the filter on again for the same date, so now you know what are the time frame of this compromise, right? So this is between January 26 and 27. So rather I am not going to look over whole January month, right? So what I need to do, I need to just go to January from maybe 26th, and this one also absolute, so I would prefer for like January 28, right? So that would make sense. Now if I do the update, simple over here, now you see there are things going on, right guys? So if I do a quick botch up on the thing, so now you see these red panels, guys. So these red panels are the login failure events, right? So you see here login failure is like 37 login failure, and you see the time frame over here. So exact time frame is 1830. Okay, so there are 37 login failures, then there are 28 login failures. Okay, then you move back to like another 30 minutes, around that time 45 minutes. So you see there are another 36 login failure. So someone is trying to do the login failure, and after that if you just go to switch over to another 2 hours of interval, you see there is login success, right? Now you can directly go to the logs over there. So it is simple, guys. So in your threat hunting process, you have to match what are the procedure, what are the process by which the attacker can pull up the tactic. So the tactic, we have lateral movement, and the process is brute force, right? So they are trying to gain access from one process or one machine to another machine. So what they did, they have done the brute force, they have failed multiple times. After that they are doing the success. Okay, so now if you go back to this particular log over here, and you can load this particular security event 1, or even like security logs maybe. So again, if I just load this particular sucker up from there, so you would definitely see, just let me clear up this PowerShell.exe from there. So you will see that there are hits, right? Obviously there are hits. Now if I simply go to this particular sucker over here, so you see these are all the audit failure log, guys. So now if you see what is the machine name over here, so you will definitely see this is a different machine name, right? So this is not the same machine name that we have identified from the sysmon log, where we have seen all of those hickey stuffs going on, like PowerShell, Metasploit, run32.dll was dumping, trying to load Metasploit, then Mimikatz also was run to credential dumping. This is a different machine, right? So what does that mean? That means that our attacker is trying to do the lateral movement, okay? But in actual scenario, what you need to do, you just need to come to this particular security event logs. You need to put a filter on the source machine, where we have identified all those mumble jumble things, and try to look for what are the authentication failure. Again, 4625, that is the event ID, obviously, if I am not wrong. Maybe yes, 4625 is the authentication failure event, followed by 4624, that is the successful authentication event, right guys? So if I load that up, so I have a different index for them, and now you see audit success message. So if you see the timestamp over here, so it is taking 2010, that is the first event. And if you go to the authentication failure, if I just do the timestamp ulta, so that means the reverse one, so I'll see that that is 1910, so after 1 hour. And if you remember the all of our execution process, it was already back 2 hours back to that time frame, right? So that is exactly matching all of those time frames, right? So what next? So now if you do identify, if you want to identify what is the exfiltration going on, if the attacker is trying to upload data anywhere or do some stuff otherwise, so what we can do, again I will go back to my sysmon logs and what I want to do. So now remember, I am always referring to the attack-ck framework for framing my hunt. Okay, so what exactly I want to do, I want to check for anything like maybe something like rar maybe. So just I want to understand like whether the attacker is trying to zip out something and trying to do some exfiltration. Okay, there is nothing rar, maybe I can identify something as zip. Okay, so you see there is a zip one. Now this is interesting guys. So what is the exfiltration means? And this exfiltration is obviously about particular tactic. Now how different techniques are there, you can refer attack-ck. So you will see that attacker is trying to zip out the data and they can do the communication afterwards, right? So that is the process. Now if we go back to this particular sucker over here, I would say load up this particular event. Now you see attacker is trying to do the command line, and again the command line is 7-zip, so it is being used is a photo.7zip from, I believe it would be the same machine. Yes, it is the same machine on which we have seen all those mumble jumble stuff. Okay, so now you see desktop, customer data, then image, what is the exactly thing is going on. Okay, so they are leveraging metasploit.dll file to go to fetch this particular sucker up, right? So now if you go to this metasploit.dll, so I believe there you will find some other stuffs as well. So let me simply copy this sucker up over here, and in place of zip file, what I'm gonna do, I'm gonna simply put a filter on the metasploit.dll. Okay, so after putting the filter as metasploit.dll, what I am seeing, 8 hits, okay, in the same time frame interval. So this is the first thing. So if I need to go the reverse order, so that might be more feasible. Yes, so this is the first thing that we have already seen, where run32.dll in our first process of execution. Now if I go to the all of the bottom things, so all of these stuffs are execution as you see in front of your screen. Now I am more interested to see the other stuffs guys, what are the attacker was doing after this thing was done. Okay, execution was done. So you see there is around 7 hours of time frame where we have seen all of these like lateral movement, login failure, authentication failure, authentication success, all of those events. Now if you see this particular time frame, what the attacker did, they have ran a tree -f command. So that is basically to see what is there inside your directory, and they have used the same metasploit.dll. Next thing, they have done a curl. Okay, so they have done a curl and they have directly uploaded this particular thing to the mydatadrop.biz guys. So this is the exact thing what we were looking for, isn't it? So attacker has used the curl command and they have initiated bitwise a transaction, so that is like 150k. Now if you have a threshold based rule, obviously this rule won't fire guys, right? So you won't capture the C2 communication, right? But again, so this is a demo scenario. In advanced cases you will see that more sophisticated one, but I am just trying to set up your base so that you would know what are the things that you need to look for and how basically you need to look for, right guys? So again, you have seen metasploit.dll over here, the exact thing we have seen. So customer data was a text file that has been zipped renamed as photos.dxa, and that has been exfiltrated to the Dropbox, right? So we are done. We have identified this the exfiltration as well. Now what left? You could identify the C2 communication as well, right? I told you about the DNS logs here, guys, right? So in DNS log, so if I particularly remove this particular sucker off from here, so I have my DNS logs coming to this particular thing. Now if I show you the visualization library, so I have a C2 communication set up for you as well. Now if you see the DNS communication from the time frame interval where exactly we have seen all of those execution and all of those other stuffs, you will see that a particular domain name has been reached regularly, right? So it is covertc2.com. so other you will see that these are the known domain names for you, but this particular thing is looking like suspicious for us, guys. So you can do a simple Google check and you can do a VirusTotal search to identify what the hell is going on. But what is the process basically? So I have created a pivot table. With my DNS log, I have put my y-axis on the count, and I have splitted the buckets for the descending order for my MX records for my DNS logs, right? So I have TXT record, MX record, and CNAME records. So I have just put the MX record so that I can identify what is the DNS communication, right? So now you see the exact thing has been captured. Okay, in that same time interval, you are seeing a definite high spike that is going on to a particular domain name which is anomalous to you guys, right? So this is the process how we can basically identify the C2 and through the DNS logs. Okay, so now if you know what is exactly the thing is going on, so we have identified everything. Okay, so let me show you what exactly as a recap process, what exactly we did and how we did. So now first thing, we started from persistence. Okay, if you remember, we have identified this particular auto start in registry process of run32.dll that was run, right? So that was a process of persistence, that exactly the thing we have identified. Someone exactly tried to move over the Metasploit into the run32.dll as process of persistence. So in terms of execution, when we went ahead to identify the execution process, we have seen the Metasploit.dll was used in a combination was run32.dll, and they have downloaded a meterpreter. So meterpreter is nothing but when you are converting a particular shell file to identify what is going on and to go in beyond shape of PowerShell logging, so you convert that to a meterpreter shell, right? So we have seen Metasploit was run, and in the next step, as a credential access, we have seen Mimikatz was ran, right? So it was again used by run32.dll, and Mimikatz was used to dump the process the credential from the same machine where we have seen this meterpreter was run. Okay, lateral movement we have identified from scanned authentication with credentials. So that is the exact process when the attacker has dumped the credentials from the machine what he have compromised. He has scanned through the credentials, so that was the reason we have identified so many failure events, login failure then followed by success, right? So lateral movement was done at that point of time. Next, we have identified the exfiltration, where the customer data has been converted to a zip and it has been transferred in a curl process to a Dropbox in a 150k bytes code. Okay, so it was a byte by byte conversation, so that the same thing we have also identified. And the last, we have identified how the attacker did the command and control using the DNS tunneling, where we have exactly identified a higher spike of DNS resolution for a particular domain name that was looking suspicious to you guys. So that is the whole process, guys, right? So now I believe this is something interesting, guys, and you have enjoyed this one. So this is the whole process, guys, by which exactly you can start from persistence and you can go to the command and control execution to identify, but provided you have all of the logs that I told you in the first step, right? So yeah, that pretty much it for today's episode. So I believe you have enjoyed the session and you have learned something, and you can now actually apply attack tactic techniques, and you can go to your logs and you can start your hunting as a post incident. So basically this is a post compromise assessment. Anyone can do that for your organization, and basically we hire third parties to do that, right? But you can do that on your own if you have those skill set, guys, right? So yeah, that's pretty much it. And before even leaving, so it took lot of effort for me to prepare this presentation and specifically the demo. So I encourage you to click the like button so that I can get encouraged by your motivation. And don't forget to subscribe Black Pearl, turn on the bell notification so that you get Pong as early as I upload a new video, right? So yeah, I'll catch you guys next time. Stay healthy, stay safe.